So, interestingly enough, on the April 22nd free response, the first two sections were actually a little bit rougher than the last two, and it's usually the opposite around. So, we're going to look at parts A and B right now. So this is the one with the fundamental theorem of calculus, and we're looking at this table of f prime values. And the first thing it wants us to do is we know that our initial condition is 20, and we're never going above 7 or into the negatives on the entire closed interval from 0 to 6. We've got select values, and it's got a continuous second derivative. So the first one, use the midpoint Riemann sum on 3 intervals of equal length indicated by the data in the table to approximate the value of f of 6. So remember, f of 6 would be the initial condition plus the integral from 0 to 6 of f prime of x dx, which is approximately, I'm going to keep that 20 for the initial condition because we're starting at 0. And then using the midpoints in our 3 subintervals in this table, here's 1, with then using that middle point of 1. I think a better illustration would be from the center. And then 2 to 4 with the midpoint at 3, and then 4 to 6 like this. So each rectangle is 2 units long, and then the first one has a height of 3.5 using the midpoint. The next is 2 units from 2 to 4 with a midpoint height of 0.8, and the last is again 2 wide and a midpoint height of 5.8, which for part A gives us 20 plus 20.2, which is equal to 40.2 as the approximation of f of 6. So there's a couple different ways to do part B. We've got an approximation of 40, and they're saying, okay, well, what would the actual value? Could it be 70? And explain your reasoning. So there's a lot of different ways to do this. I think that the easiest way to do this, I'm going to erase really quick. The easiest way to do this is to remember this given condition that we know our maximum is 7. So you could imagine that even if your maximum sort of slope is 7, this is how I would make the picture, is it's like, okay, well, if I'm starting at 20 for f of x and the maximum is 7, so it's got a slope of 7 all the way up, what is the highest it could possibly get here by this point, which is 6. And so a couple different ways to do this for me, I would just say, okay, well, what's 20 plus 6 times 7? Because that's going to be your absolute max that you can possibly have here. And that's then 20 plus 42, which is 62. So it can never be 70 because the max is 62. And remember when it says explain your reasoning here, we want to have a complete sentence. There's other answers. This to me seems the easiest way that requires the least amount of work. Hopefully this is helpful. Please let me know if you have any further follow-up questions about this problem.